Okay. Greetings, beloveds. Thank you so much for joining us for another beautiful Sunday session, healing session with Ikhambi Natural Healing. My name is Nelisiwe Xaba. Ngihamba no Menzi Maseko. Ngihamba with my sister Nelly Nkosi. And we are bringing you today a live Q&A for the astrology session that we aired last week, Sunday, which was a pre-recording with Utabisa from KY Astro. So this week, we just want to have a Q&A open up to our audience, have her share a bit more about her teachings. I know everybody was so excited about the sessions, so was I. You know, everybody knows how much I love astrology and numbers and all of that. So thank you so much, and I look forward to a very beautiful session. Please feel free to send your questions on Facebook. You can send your questions on even Instagram. You can DM us through the session, or you can just pop in to our Zoom and let's do this live. So thank you so much, everybody. I will now hand over to Menzi, who will lead us into our breathing meditation. And after our breathing meditation, we'll recite the pledge and we will get started. And thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to a great session. Menzi, can you lead us into meditation and the pledge?
Yes, indeed. Sani Bonani, welcome to Ikhambi. And we will do this healing, this breathing meditation, which as usual is always just a very short but meaningful space of time where we allow ourselves to be grounded, to be fully present, to be in the moment, so that we can allow the messages to flow through freely and allow our ancestors to be here and God and the Creator. So we're just going to take one deep breath in. Hold that breath. Relax your mind and your brain and let the breath go out. And you relax your shoulders and you take a deep breath again. Fill up your cavities, your stomach, your chest. And then let it go. Take one last breath and we allow our ancestors to be present in this place and the Creator. Take a deep breath. Meditate on the topic of astrology, numerology, meditation. Let it go. And then we take one last breath in. Relax your shoulders. Allow yourself to be receptive to the messages in the ether within yourself, from the ground, from the heavens. And breathe out. Now that we are relaxed and present, and we are all here with our mind, bodies, and souls, we shall recite the Healer's Pledge, because we believe in the healing power also of the words that we speak. They create and they can also destroy. So we are very mindful of the words that we recite. Hence we say this pledge, which is a healer's pledge, because we believe we can be able to, every one of us is a healer in their own right, in their own home and of their own self. So please repeat after me. Everyone can unmute because we like to recite this together. You can unmute your mic and we shall recite this healer's pledge together, which is a code of conduct for how we conduct ourselves in this space. So in Zulu, we have a word, singabelaphi, which means we are healers. So we say that. Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creator.
We owe our gift to nature, our ancestors.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach each other with honesty, compassion, and honor.
We will offer our recommendations and advice and ideas with trust.
We will offer our recommendation and advice with trust.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither
insult
or dishonor one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
We will share,
promote,
promote,
and raise awareness about natural healing.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
healthy lifestyles and well-being.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
We will refrain
from posting relevant information and falsehoods.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi,
we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gift
to humanity and nature.
We will give back to nature what she has so abundantly given us.
We will give back to nature what she has so abundantly given us.
Share. Siyathokoza.
Okay.
Inkundla ihlukile. Up over to you, Queens.
Thank you so much, Menzi, for that. I think we are all more centered and we are all more present. And we can now begin this beautiful session. I want to just remind everybody about the session and the season right now that we're in. So right now we're in the season of Newt. This is the final season of the calendar year. And basically Newt is about wrapping everything up from the cosmic heavens because she's the mother of the heavens. And that is why we are focusing on astrology, numerology, and aligning ourselves with the right times and the seasons as what we've been doing for the first 12 months. So this is very exciting for us because as Ikhambi, this is the first full 12 calendar months that we've done with all of you. So thank you so much for walking this journey with us from the time of Asa up until now where we wrap up with Mother Newt. I would like to now just hand over to Sis Tabisa from KY Astro. So you guys would know that we had her last week in a pre-recording where she just spoke about birth charts, astrology, numerology, basically how do you decode your DNA and all the things that you have inside of you. So so this is just more of everybody should have watched, hopefully, last week's session. And therefore this week is just going to be a Q&A. This week is just going to be more teachings and actually like engaging with our community. So I'll hand over to Sister Tabisa, who will run us through just a brief, like 10 minutes intro from her side. And then we'll open up the floor because very much today is just about engaging with everybody, getting her to answer questions about astrology, anything that you picked up from watching the session last week and you feel that you want to have like clarity on. So I just want to remind everybody that this will be general questions. You know, she doesn't have information of your birth chart, therefore she can't tell you a lot of things, but she can tell you some aspects that you might maybe have questions on. So yeah, let's just be cognizant of that. But let me not take up too much of your time. Sister Tabisa, can you take it over?
Hotep family, Hotep to your viewers. Siyacamakusha kunike mkhulu Menzi, sicamakusha kuma Xaba, naku Nkosi, the whole family. Sibulela for isikhathi sipersona. Ngithabisa again. Welcome, thank you for welcoming back in your space. So what I wanted to just share a little bit about, just for the significance of the seasons that we are in, or even throughout the year, the seasons, what we will sometimes know before we knew about Kemet, would be as the seasons that we talk about, not the 12 months, but the 12 seasons that we go throughout the year. So we are in a season, Newt, what we normally know as Ixesha Virgo, according to, so I'm going to try and do this whole thing because most of us are new in the Kemet concepts and understanding. So for people that have been following normal astrology from the Western side, it will be easier to relate to what I'm having to share. If I, throughout my discussion, to just continuously refer to the Virgo run by the Mercury, and also bring it back to the gods of Kemet. We are in the time and season of Newt. And so we just need to understand that it is the end of the year, it's the last season of the year. So in Gesindu, it's also known as Umpetikazi, meaning that siyaphethelela unyaka, meaning that we are wrapping up the year. So that's what we'd like to start off with. And then we're going to go, so that is the 12th season. When we talk about season, you'd understand that we're not talking about winter and whatever, but we're talking about the different seasons, which are almost like you can, I don't know, something like monthly, that we're going through in that 28-day season or 28-day period that we are given a god that runs or rules the time of the year. And so what I will then say, after that, we are starting the year, which is on the 23rd. So that period is generally just around the 23rd of August, running through to the 22nd of September. So we will be wrapping up and this current season on the 22nd, and then on the 23rd, which is then we are starting with the new year according to the Egyptian/African calendar. And then that is Libra, according to the known terminology, astrology. That is Libra run by Venus. And then if you have to take it back or relate it to Osa, it will then, to Egypt, it will be Osa, I want to say this, I see Mama Xaba, she keeps looking somewhere. I will say this towards the end where I need to just bring it, because I just want to make it simple for the start in terms of just the one God that rules the time. I know there is that combination because we are not in the business of only just saying there's a one God and there's, it's mainly a male, like, our previous way, or rather of dogma in terms of just saying there's one. I know that there's all, Newt does come, so we have that dual energy of Newt running into conjunction, or even Mercury running in conjunction with Pisces energy, or Virgo and Pisces. I want to say that next, Mamu Xaba, please bear with me. I am trying to make it as simple as possible in the beginning.
No problem.
Thank you. So we have now Osa, which is next, which we will be celebrating our new year. There's a big new year celebration that will most of us will take part in, as we will be joining the great empire of Kemet. That is the next season, which is the beginning of the year for us. We'll be celebrating. We are trying to align to the right things, to the right seasons. And then next after that is then run by Scorpio. And the planets that are running there are Mars and Pluto. Scorpio is then married with Uheta, who was one njengomvundisikazi. And the reason you'd understand that the reason Enikwigama kamvundisikazi is because it deals, the planets and the season deals with the rebirth. And so that's why you know, or you hear that Scorpio rules over our sex organs. So it's important that we identify and know that there's a lot of things that will be born. And also during the season, there'll be a lot of conceptions that will be taking place for those that are into childbearing. And then we go on to Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. And that then is, we Kemet side, it will be Ujehut, Ngesindu, Umlomikazi. I'm having to learn 3 types of saying the same thing because we have these 3 different things that we have to marry up and try to understand to get a full understanding of this whole astrology and concepts and the energies that go with it. And so after that, we then have a Capricorn, which is around end of December, January, run by Saturn. You also remember that we also talk about these planets running different days, which would be Saturday. Interesting for you to know and note. And then izoba nguNeptet, umvikelikazi ngesintu. I think these names will mean a lot when we bring them to Isintu, so that we understand, because it will take someone to have to read Incwadi of Egypt to understand on Neptet what are they or who are they and what energies they bring. But when we mention the African names, at least we can try and relate what they stand for. And then the next one will be Aquarius, run by Uranus. And then Heru, Ingosana ka Osa. I'm also going to narrate just a small story about Osa or Heru or Oset and the whole story that we understand from the Kemet history and the studies that we are all having to come up with or to know about. And then after Heru, we then have Pisces. Pisces run by Neptune and Jupiter, and that is then Geb. And Nkosi Xaba. And then after that, it's Aries, run by Mars, and Oset, Unomkhubulwana, Mama, Kaheru. It's still another story that we still need to talk about, just touch briefly. Then we have Taurus, run by the planet Venus, Anpu, Nkapikazi, Ngesintu, Heru, Anpu, Kemet. And then we then have Gemini, also run by Mercury, Segmet, Umlapikazi, Ngesintu. And then we have Cancer, very, very, please, we do need to take note. It's also, Cancer is run by the moon, is Uset, Umama, Kaheru, Umbilizi. I think most of us have gone through some of the work that Umbilizi was responsible for this time, and would have noticed the energies that ran during that time, where things needed to be or to be brought apart so that we can start rebuilding them back. And then we have Leo after that, which is run by the sun. And then Ngumaat Umthetho ngesintu, Ngumaat ngesi Egypt or ngesi Kemet. And so that's also important for us to note, because that is another season where we would have experienced tiredness. And those are the seasons that I spoke about previously, where I said that those are the times that sometimes we need to listen to our bodies so that we can heal and go within to be able to experience certain things within ourselves, to deal with certain things. I think I've said that part, so I'm just going to say a little bit about Historiska Osa, Historiska Heru, no Oset and Oset. So
sorry, sis. Sorry to cut you. I just wanted us to maybe run into the solstice that you had wanted to talk about, just so that we have time to open up for questions, because I see we're getting quite a few people on the call and on Facebook. So I just wanted us to speak on the seasonal significance and then move on to questions. What I'm thinking, we'll discuss with the team, but we can definitely have you on for another session where you can just run us through the planets and their characteristics along with matching it up to Kemet, which will work well.
I'm actually done. I think I'm done. Luckily, I've already mentioned stories that I've done on Mama and all of that, but it's fine. Then we can then go and, because I think as I've asked to actually specifically speak about the equinox and solstice, because I think that's important for our spirituality to just know what happens during those times for our spiritual sake, and the times that we need to observe and then align and do the necessary rituals to be able to get the fulfillment out of the specific times. So we have equinox. Equinox here is a time we have both spring and autumn equinox. And just basically equinox also, I mean, what it stands for is that there's an equal equilibrium between the day and the night. So there's those days where it's almost like equal. And for the one that we are going to observe shortly, which is the 23rd of September, also happens to be in line with our current new year that we are expecting and we are looking forward to celebrate. And so there's so many ways to look at it. There's what really happens is that there's hydrogen that's being pumped onto the earth. And so that's why you'll see that vegetation becomes green and those kind of things. And then what does it mean to us? There's the science behind it and what that provides for us. You know that we need to take in the hydrogen, and then we need to take in the oxygen, but the plants need the hydrogen and all that, for the colors and whatever else. And we also know how that relates to us in terms of our melanin, and those are the things that we need to be able to generate the colors that we have on our pigmentation of our skin. But for our spiritual sake, what is important with the equinox is that it provides us the time for because it's a time of new beginnings. It's a time for the struggles of the dark and the night are almost equal at that time. And so it's important for us to actually just, when we know the positioning, we know that the equator, we say there is a level where the equator is then we regard the northern and the southern hemisphere. We also need to mention that when we hear people talk who are in the northern hemisphere, they'll always talk about their seasons because they experience the things and the seasons differently to us. Us in South Africa, we are in the southern hemisphere, and so our time is now spring. For them in the northern hemisphere, they're now experiencing autumn. So they are going through different things, and what happens is that the sun, for us, for them, the sun has turned because they are now facing autumn towards winter. For us, we are now experiencing spring towards summer. So that's why the sun, in terms of the proximity of the sun to the earth, is coming closer to us. It has changed direction. That's what we need to celebrate. Because that celebration also means that we understand the power and the energy that is provided by the sun. And hence you'll notice that some of the things that we need to be cognizant of is that we need to be thankful of the sun. We need to be almost like we're not really worshiping the sun more than we need to acknowledge what it provides for us. And so if we can, during this time, we need to be able to maybe 3 times a day, we need to be able to thank the sun when it comes out in the morning. Midday, we must also just spend a couple of seconds or just thank the sun, whether you open your arms or whatever, any way that you can to be able to appreciate what the sun provides for us. And then in the evening, when it's just before dawn, so that we align ourselves accordingly. Then we go on to the autumn equinox. Obviously, autumn, for us, we experience that around the 21st of March. And that's when the sun also does an opposite of what would have been done now. where it changes position and it goes towards the northern hemisphere. And then we deal with the solstice, also around what the proximity of the sun. Solstice, it stands for sol, for the sun, and then stas, it just makes, it stands for just making a stand. It's also got to do with the movements, and that we're going to observe that around the summer between the 21st and the 22nd of December, and the winter between the 20th and the 21st of June. It will depend on that year when they actually put it aside. I can't speak more because I know you want to open the time for your Q&As, but I just wanted us to just be cognizant of that, of the times and what those do for us. Spiritually, what we can note with these equinox and solstice, I think let's just open up the floor because I think there will be more questions and then we can answer as and when we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for walking us through that, beloved. So we will, okay, so I just want to touch on one thing that from what our teachings as Ikhambi and what we do in terms of the importance of remembering where we are positionally of the sun, where the sun is positioned for us being in the southern hemisphere. So that is the whole reprogramming that we speak of and we try to teach on to our community. It's just walking you through how that looks, because now you are switching everything that we know, we are turning it around. So right now with this Asar season, we start Aries. So even with Asar, he's represented as the ram. So that is his totem. And that is when we start a new cycle. So everything as you know it, because there's balance in everything and there's duality in everything. So in the north, they are going into Libra season. In the south, we are in Aries, but those two are sister signs. So when I say sister signs, it means they are the opposite of each other, but they're the balance. So they're the mother and the father. So you always need to have that balance of, you've got Libra being the Laku Oset, the feminine energy, and she comes into the southern hemisphere. She comes around about April time. And that is Aries for the north. So there's always, so in the different seasons, there's always a polarity. There's no one energy that just dominates. There's always a balance between that. And I think that's also what we need to always remind ourselves. It's not either or, it's and. Always for us as melanated African people, it's always been and. This concept of wanting one way of thoughts to be the predominant thoughts is not how our forefathers led. Our forefathers led in unity, inclusiveness. That's why things were taken from different parts of Africa to build what we know as Kemet. So the South contributed, the East, the West. Kemet was not just sitting by itself. It was fueled and driven and fed by the rest of the continent, by the rest of the world, because the mapping of the world was not how we know it today, where it was just things were all secluded and separate. So we must always just remind ourselves as we learn with this, your mind is going to struggle to grapple because you want one system to work, and it's not like that. And I even, so let's get into questions, and I'll start with actually Usiza's question right now so that I can answer it, but then I can also open it up to Nelly Menzi to also answer this, because I'd like to answer this because this speaks to what I'm talking about now. So basically, Nkosi asked, I was of the understanding that the new year was yesterday, 1109. So that was from the Ethiopian calendar, where the year is 2014. I'm a little confused. So I'll speak in terms of my understanding, but I know Menzi has extensive knowledge on Ethiopia and Kush, so he will elaborate a bit more there. But this is what I mean by there's no one system. In Kemet, you have the Anunian calendar, which follows the sun. That is what we are using right now in our teachings and what we speak. That is what the great empire of Kemet also uses. So they use the sun. Then there's also another system, which is the Osirian calendar that follows the moon. And if you follow the moon cycle, then yesterday we started a new cycle and we started a new year. And that's also even with the Basotho. They had theirs in August. So there are different schools of thought, you know, and now we're being exposed to that. And it might feel like, I know for me, when I first started my learning, I felt like, oh my God, there's so much, when will I ever learn? But it's actually quite simple. It's because we're trying to compare different things and wanting one thing to stand out. It's about what resonates for you. So if you feel that for you, tracking the moon is going to be better for you and resonate strongly, then you would follow the Osirian calendar. But if you feel that the solar system and the sun is easier for you to remember, because you always know the position of the sun, that one, you know, it's very clear. And then you would be with the Anunian calendar. So I think it's very important to not try to have one way of looking things, but have an array and therefore choose from there. So I'll hand it over to Nelly. She's got her hand raised.
Greetings, beloved. So I also wanted to add, in terms of what Xaba is saying right now, I also wanted to remind people that we come from different tribes, and we do things differently. Like for me and Menzi, we are those of the sun, you know. So when you pick a calendar to follow, you must also remember your lineage as well. You'll find people who are those of the water, Amandao, the water people, you know, the water nation. So then you'll find people from the mountains and. So when you pick a calendar to follow, don't just say, oh, Xaba is following this calendar, so therefore I must also follow this calendar. But also remember your lineage. What do you guys do at home? What your tribe, what is it associated with as well?
Thank you so much for that breakdown, beloved. Menzi, can you just answer in terms of the Ethiopian calendar?
Etep everyone, and salamna, and happy new year to our Ethiopian brothers. I have to specify this. The Ethiopian New Year is a new year which is celebrated by Christian Ethiopians, or what is called the Orthodox Tewahedo. Tewahedo means oneness. The Orthodox faith of Ethiopia, which is practiced firstly by the Amhara people mostly, and also some people in Eritrea. I'm saying it's a Christian New Year because it is established at the beginning. The calendar, as someone, I think the sisters have explained, they use a lunar year to calculate. They use the moon to calculate the year. And it's 7 years behind the Gregorian calendar, but they use specifically what is called the Julian calendar. Now, there are some African experts who posit, excuse me, I have to reduce the volume here, who posit that the Ethiopian New Year is based on an Enochian calendar. Now, you have to understand that Enochian calendar is still a Judeo-Christian Abrahamic calendar system, which is based on the saints of biblical saints. What we are talking about when we say the 23rd, 24th of September, we are basing that on a solar calendar. But there are also others who base it on the rising of Sirius, which is sidereal, which is a stellar calendar. So our African calendar is based on the solar calculations as well as the rising of certain constellations in the sky, right? It's an African calendar which predates the Christian calendar. Anyone who understands anything about history will understand that it was in Africa where the first calculations of time and days were basically practiced. We, even before Tendera, the calendar that we are using, the Anunian calendar, even the Osirian calendar, it's based on a sun dial, I don't want to call it a sun dial because a sun dial is something else. It's based on a zodiac, the original zodiac in Tendera, in the temple of Heteru, which is basically, which was also based in the beginning on the source of the Nile, which is around Uganda. right? But as Nkosi Xaba explained perfectly, the Egyptian calendar, or the Kemetic space, the Kemetic civilization, was basically created through the contribution of many nations, mostly the nations just below the Nile, because even in their own historians, they say, we owe our civilizations to the source of the Nile. Where is the source of the Nile? Lake Nyanja in Uganda, which is Central Africa, right? So long story short, our calendar is based basically on the natural, what we observe in nature. But the Ethiopian calendar was based on what the saints and the prophets, including Enoch, what was revealed to them through their holiday. So it's based on their holiday. For example, this calendar is based on something to do with the Queen of Sheba, the visitation of the Queen of Sheba. There's a story of the Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon, which is the story which is written about in the Bible and the book of Enoch. I'd like to just stop there. So that one is just based on stories relating to what time was it? Where was the moon during the time of the visitation of Sheba? But we are basing it on natural phenomena that are observable every day. I'm hoping that makes sense. Maybe later we can elucidate exactly how they calculate it. But in general, if you want to go do your research the Ethiopian calendar according to that. It's related to the Enochian calendar, the prophet Enoch.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that breakdown, beloved. I think that, thank you so much for that breakdown, because I think that really, you really explained it so beautifully. And what I actually just would like to share, I think I shared this in our closed group, where I go to physio every 3 weeks or so. And my physio is Jewish. She's a Jewish lady, and it's the practice is next to a school, a Jewish school. And I was hearing these sounds, these horn sounds. And I said to her, what's that sound? Are the kids playing Ivuvuzela or something? Because I was like, this is different. And she's like, no, it's actually, we are preparing for our new year, which happened last week. So the Jewish community, they had their new year last week. So from August, so this happened in August. So from August, which was, they started blowing the horn. So basically, she says that they blow the horn every single day and use that time for deep reflection. So basically, you reflect on the year that you've had, and you start now doing your plans for the year that is to come. So from Uma'at, they use that time of where they are connecting with the horn, which is the ram horn, which is Asa, so that they can begin their new year. So it's very interesting how even other communities, it's very connected to what we are talking about here. So therefore, it's always really important to not have this either or, because we're all saying the same thing, we're just saying it in different ways. And it would make sense also with the Jewish community, because they are in the Southern Hemisphere. So they have the influence a lot of Kemet and other African ways of living that we have. I see, Menzi, your hand is raised.
Yes, excuse me. I just needed to add one thing. The New Year in Ethiopia is celebrated a lot through church ceremonies. There are a lot of church ceremonies, but now you must realize that in Ethiopia, it's not only Christians. There are people called the Oromo people, who are the original people of Ethiopia, the Bantu people of Ethiopia. Who have been there, who are the aboriginals of that place. They also celebrate their New Year around September, but it is not September 11. They use quite a different calendar. But all of them, they've decided, for the sake of national unity, there is something called Ade Abeba, which is a new flower. Basically, it's the end of the 3-month rainy season in Ethiopia. So at the end of the 3-month rainy season, you see this new flower blooming. It's a yellow, golden kind of flower, which starts to bloom. And then that is they base their celebration on the what's it called? The appearance of that new flower, right? So it is also seasonal. I said already that it was about saints and all that, but I was explaining that the calculation itself is also based on seasonal occurrences. AmaXhosa, for example, there's a brother of mine who said that they were celebrating their new year on the 7th of September, you know, and then Abesut, so apparently it's the sighting of Sirius, which is in the end of somewhere in the
August.
End of August. Yeah. So it's around the same time. We are all observing the same thing, but from different vantage points.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Menzi, for making that distinction. Because I think it's a great way to make people understand. We're all standing in a circle, looking at the same thing. We're just looking at it from different points. So therefore, what somebody else is seeing on that side, because doesn't mean that they're not seeing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing from different points of view. So therefore, that's a great way to actually explain this. Okay, so I just want to open it up for questions. Please, can you either raise your hand, send it on the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask your question? This session really is about you guys asking questions and we can answer it. So please feel free to unmute, raise hand, send a message. Nkosi, do we have any questions on Facebook?
You may proceed with the questions here on the Zoom platform, and then I'll check for you on Facebook in the interim.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's just see.
Can I just say something while you look at that, Queen?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so that's exactly what that's exactly what I was trying to explain when I wanted to say that what I'm obviously observing the sun, but we also know that the duality that we do observe, there's also the moon placements, which exactly what has been discussed here now, is to say that if you want to look at it this way, you can say that the sun is rolling at the same time with the moon, of which the moon placement would have been in Pisces, if you look at it during this time. So I wanted to actually explain that the duality that we do observe, according to the Western astrology, they do it goes in that in a way where there's only one that's sort of dominant, but there's always, even with the zodiac, you'll notice that there's always that power of two, where you have a dominant one and you have an ascending, which we call the moon placement. That's exactly what Menzi was explaining, and ngiyabonga baba for explaining that clearly. Siyabonga.
Okay, thank you so much, beloved, for that. Guys, don't be shy, man. Ask questions. This session was set up for all of you to, ask questions, because I know that this astrology thing sometimes feels a little bit like it's a lot, and you're trying to basically find your feet. So that's why we wanted to air everything last week, so you have a whole week to watch, and then this week was really about questions and asking about different placements, or I don't know, anything that you want to ask. I know that there was a lot of questions on Facebook during the week. So I think Roy, are you here? You had some questions that you wanted to ask. Can you ask them here? Okay,
Before we go to Roy, I just wanted to notify you that there are no questions on Facebook yet.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Roy, yes. Roy, you can unmute and speak.
Dumelang Baharona. Just to request some clarification regarding the season of Virgo, because I have been told before that the Virgo season is also the Pisces season. So I'm requesting a little bit of clarification regarding this. And my other question was to do with the rising of Sirius for us in Southern Africa. And then already Menzi said something regarding Cyrus rising in August, like the Basotho are celebrating their New Year. So these are the two issues that I requested some clarifications on. And to further elaborate regarding the star signs about the North people and the South people, if it's a different issue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, I think I'm feedbacking. Roy, please can you mute yourself? Sorry. Okay, I think that's fine now. Yes, I'm fine now. Okay, I sound fine. Okay, I will quickly answer that and then I'll hand over to Sister Tabisa and the rest of the team just to also answer that. So I'll start with the first question. The first question you were asking about right now, it is Virgo season in the mainstream. So when I say mainstream, I basically mean if you open up the horoscope on the newspaper, or if you see something on Instagram, everybody's talking about Virgo season. So with that, Virgo season is from the northern perspective, because by the time that it's Virgo season, they are already wrapping up and going into what they call fall, which is autumn. So we are in Pisces season and going into a new cycle starting with Aries in September. How this works, the way that I'm dressed today, I'm dressed in all brown. This is representing Ubaba Ugeb. Ubaba Ugeb is the counterpart of Newt. So that is the Virgo energy that I'm embodying today, because that sits on in Feb. March. Yeah, Marchish. March is Ugeb season, which correlates to the season that we are in now of Pisces. So everything is a duality. So right now, the prominent and the predominant energy is Newt. But it doesn't mean that she comes alone in terms of, okay, Asara, Maseko, Osetas, all of these are still there, like the 12 signs, just in terms of you. And I think Sister Tabisa will explain in detail more, is that you as a person, you've got all 12 signs within you. That's why you have a birth chart, because your birth chart houses all of the 12 signs and tells you just in what aspects of your life is that sign. So people that say, oh, I don't like Aries people, or I don't like Gemini people. So you don't like yourself, because we've got all the signs in us. You can't separate them. You can't say that, oh no, Sagittarius people are evil. You've got it in your chart somewhere, you know? So that's where you start having to rethink about it. So that's the first question in terms of, in the South, it is Pisces season. But the counterparty of that is Virgo energy. So you will still feel Virgo energy. How I explain it is that it's just different aspects of your life that you'll feel it. You'll feel like right now you want to get more organized. You want to, prepare for the new year to start. So therefore you're planning out, okay, this is what I'm doing in 3 months or whatever, because there's that Virgo energy. So it's like you can't really separate it. The second question was about Series B. So I will probably also allow Mkhulu to add more on this. But in terms of Series B, for my own research and understanding, even with Lionsgate and all of that stuff, I don't think that 0808 is the only most powerful portal. I think that there's always a time period of when it comes in. And with the moving of the earth and the axis and all of that, those times are not, it can't every single year be 0808. It's not possible with how the planets are moving and how the earth is positioned. So that can slightly change. So Series B comes back roundabout, which is the star of Uasa. That's why I saw to have their new year there, because from their vantage point, they can start seeing that star coming back. So that will happen from the beginning of August. So in terms of rituals on that, I'm not quite sure about that. So I'll ask Mkhulu Menzi to answer that. But Series B is quite important for us as melanated people, because that's the dog star. That's basically our father star that regenerates Earth and regenerates us. So that's also quite important. That's why the sun also for us is quite important. But yeah, I'll allow, and then I can't remember the third question, but I think others will answer. I've answered a lot. Mkhulu Menzi, Nelly, Sister Tabisa, who wants to take it next?
I think Tabisa can maybe add something to it, because I mean, I get too excited when I'm thinking about Sirius. So, and I think I sent Roy something, I think during the week, I'm hoping I did, about Sirius B and August, and something to do with Abasutu and it rising. It starts rising around July or so, but I get too excited because I have this thing with Osiris and Orion and Sirius. Like you've already perfectly put it, Uguti, it's our father star. Some of our shamans, like in the south, they will tell you what is Kamuga Kona. We come from Sirius, you know. Some people will even explain it through Amazulu, to say that Amazulu, they were named so, not because of someone's surname, but because of the appearance of the Sirius star sometime Emandulo, and they will relate it to the issue of Isilulu. There's a Zulu myth or a Zulu folkloric story that says that the people, Abantu, Abanguni, before the nation was established, they came from a Isilulu, Isilulu is Vela Pezul, something like that. Isilulu is it's like a, what do you call it? Like a basket. No, it's a granary. It's a granary made of woven with umshang. And they say it came from the north. Some say it came from the sky. And some relate that to Sirius B, and they will tell you an elaborate story around that. But I don't want to go too deeply into that. All I know is that Sirius can be clearly visible in the southern hemisphere, next to Orion, close to Orion's belt. So that it also has something to do with this positioning of the pyramids, both in Nubia, in Kemet, as well as in South America, where they see it around, they see it rising around the beginning of the year, the beginning of the Gregorian year. So, but we see it between July and end of August. That's where we see the Sirius star more visibly. But it's a star that is basically always there. It's like the largest constellation. It's not even it's a star, it's a constellation, but there's a lot, and there's more than one. There's like 3 stars. It's a binary or a trinary, something like that. But maybe Tabisa can add some more, please.
I think from my side, I did explain that I understand Mkhulu Menzi is very proficient with Kemet. I'm learning. It's something that I've started learning this year, but I can explain in terms of what Syria or does or provides us with, because exactly what Umamu Xaba Esicho, that comes with the energy of healing. Lion's Gate is also when we need to face our dark and our fears. So I think for me, these things, how I have started incorporating in my spirituality is just to understand what they mean for me, what they mean for us, and how I should be using those energies or what they're providing at the times that we supposed to engage them. So I think for me that's where I see it relevant for my spiritual life. And yeah, so but I understand there are people that are more concerned or more, they'd like to know the history behind all of that. For me, it's really about how do I navigate through this life, through my spirituality, through understanding and what to know. If I'm feeling like this, what could be the reason? Instead of me running to the doctor, what I should be understanding that's happening. So I think with that, I can almost say that I understand that from what Syria does or Sirius does, is that it provides a sort of healing. Most of the time, you'd notice that what happens is that we'll be going through deep things that we should be facing, confronting, our fears, like, your normal fears, if, with the current times with COVID, what would happen to my kids if this happens? So it's basically just confronting those fears. And so we need to incorporate certain rituals to be able to get rid of that fear, because we cannot allow that fear to sit within us, because then it will hinder what we should be doing to continue and be able to exercise or extend ourselves to be able to get from the next season or the next planet's energies, So I think for me, that's what it means. And all of what I'm understanding is exactly what I've just explained in terms of how does it relate to me at this time. I mean, most of us, I think during this time, we even talked with Xaba, was that there was a time we actually felt drained. And instead of me going to the doctor or wanting pharmaceuticals to just pump some more drugs, I needed to understand what is causing this, because I know that there's planets that causes this. And hence, I've even said in the previous interview was that when we are feeling tired and exhausted, especially during the time we're coming from, towards end of July, August, that was the time there was lots of play. And you would have noticed that there was a couple, even now, there's still a couple of planets that are going retrograde. Hence, we are feeling so drained. Just before this interview, we just had a short, brief introduction amongst the team, yes, Ikhambi. And one lady mentioned that she was feeling the pain around her ribs. I just want to confirm, Mama Nkosi, is that I was feeling the same thing. I was feeling so exhausted, pain. I was even saying to my husband, I was feeling so exhausted, as if there was something happening inside of from my tummy up to my ribs. So those things are the things that we mustn't think we're going to use external stuff. Just we need to understand. And because for me, I sensed that it needed me to rest, because even yesterday it was my birthday and I was supposed to go out. And additional to some other things I needed, I had a commitment with. I needed to also just stay within, because I still felt that my energies, because of the planet's effects on me or on us, that energy is affecting my energy. Hence, it's just allowing extension. And because during this time, what we're supposed to also observe is that those things that because we are, the universe is trying to balance, it's trying to bring harmony and balance, because we know as we are leading towards end of the current month, or leading on to the next season, which is Libra / Osa, is that we are then, let me say Osa and the other one, the duality that we're observing, which is then Aries, or which is then Mars. There's a lot of energies coming from Mars. Even now, I've started feeling it. So those are the things, because Mars is an energy that is provoking us to purge certain things in our lives. So if there are things that you are trying to decide on, even if you don't want to decide, it will force you to decide. It will even remove things or people around us that we are not supposed to, that no longer serves us. So that's exactly what, for me, if we're trying to delay or we don't have the guts enough to actually make those decisions, it will then force us to make those decisions. Hence, I've spoken about even, it will pull the carpet below underneath our feet, because we're not making the decisions, because what is provided during this time is exactly to make those decisions, and so that we can move on, because we cannot carry all that burden. When we need to move on, it's going to hinder us in terms of progress. And yeah, so that's what I can explain in terms of what is happening. With Mars is currently there, exactly what Xaba said. It just depends on the placements of Mars when you were born. All those planets are placed, they observed at different places in the universe when each person is born, or rather it happens throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout the months. So when it's closer, it's got more effect. When it's further, when you hear they talk about 29 degrees, it's a bit further. So it won't affect you in the same way. So if it's one of the signs that come, one of the energies that come, like Mars, if it's at a further place or proximity with the planet that's currently at play or that's dominating, the effect will be less on us in terms of feeling it. But if it's closer, then the effect, like what most of us experience around end of July, I think most of us can attest to that. There was a lot happening, and I even said to people, just be careful, watch your emotions, do more meditations, because you will experience a lot of clashes amongst us people because of what's happening. There was less tolerance, hence you would experience, or you would have known that you even saw a rise in women abuse and all of that, and that's why it happens around this time. Can I just stop there for now?
Okay, thank you so much, beloved, for that. And I think what you're speaking about end of July definitely makes a lot of sense, because that was also set season. So set season, that was why there was all of that. And Set is the ruler of, I think, Mars and Pluto, the deep transformation, the dark world. Okay, so that makes sense. Before we go to Nkosi, I want to just read some comments and some questions, and then we'll go over to you, Nkosi. I see your hand raised. So I will start with a question from Uzanele. She says, please elaborate on the rituals that one can do around this time. So in terms of rituals, we don't ever recommend or prescribe anything because we want somebody to be in touch with understanding what is right for them. Like as what Nkosi spoke about earlier on the session, where she was saying, understand your ways in your family, your lineage. Because I think right now, there's a lot of blanket statements and there's a lot of do this ritual. Yes, there are standard rituals that one needs to do that cover us all. But then when it starts talking about rituals in terms of Sirius B and all of that, then it starts getting a little bit specific. But if anybody else wants to answer that, personally for me, I don't like to recommend any rituals, because the assignments I would like is that for you to get in touch with yourself around that time. What do you feel like doing? If it's sleeping, maybe it's sleeping because you need to dream and your ancestors need to communicate through you in that, like in that way, or you just need to rejuvenate your body, and that's your ritual. Because sometimes I think we are thinking rituals are all of these extravagant things. I'm a 7-day candles or 7-color candles. And it's just about rest. Rest is a ritual. You completely being able to rest, that is a ritual that has intention, that has power. So maybe also just change the way that we all look at how rituals and the things that we want to do at that time. I know we all desperately want to align, we desperately want to connect, but maybe that ritual for you, until your path is made clear, is just for you to pray, and then your path will be made clear. It's okay, like Kaya, this is the ritual we're going to do. I feel very connected when it's around the end of July, middle August. Therefore, this is what I'd like to do with me and my family, or just me by myself. So it really is important to be in touch with you.
Mama Xaba?
Yes.
Are you going to allow Mama Nkosi before, because I wanted us to actually talk about the rituals, because it's something it's not.
No, you can talk about the rituals. We'll keep Nkosi till after this segment, because I just want to go through the questions. Also being cognizant of time.
Okay.
So you can answer about the rituals.
All right. So in terms of rituals, I think we just had a brief discussion around that. Thank you, Zanele, for that question. Like Umamu Xaba has just said, it's maybe not wise to recommend a specific ritual. I think how we can answer that, because I won't be able to override what she has said, but obviously the important thing I wanted to say about rituals, which I had in mind, was that it's important that we don't feel ashamed of our rituals. There's rituals that some people will see as maybe things that are done by prophecy, like just having candles and whatever. There's rituals that Tina Singabantu Besintu we prefer to do. Like I was mentioning to the team earlier, is that you would make mkomboti. you'd prepare African beer to appease your ancestors, or for whatever reason that you may be asking or doing your Thanksgiving. And you find that when we have to do the rest of the stuff, which is maybe usapaza, the seeds and stuff like that, you find us being ashamed to be seen doing these things. For me, I want to say just on this note is that let's not be ashamed. Abanye abantu amandiya, they don't have to be ashamed when they do rituals zabo. If they need to go do sunbathing, if they need to go to the sea to do, because they're also doing kind of ritual, they're doing a cleansing ritual, they're doing whatever. So why should we be scared, or why should we demonize and allow other people's opinion when they see us do these things, and then we have to feel ashamed and want to hide? So those are the things that I just wanted to say. Let's feel free to do what we want. This is a free country. This is a free world. We are connecting. We are trying to align. So let's not let other people's projection on us also affect our mindset. It's just important for us because, I mean, think about it this way. We know that there are bodies or there are entities that are in the environment. When they see that you are also questioning, or you are also feeling ashamed of them, or ashamed of what you're doing for them, how are they going to give you the power to do these things? How are they going to accept what you are pledging, or what you want them to do for you? So let's just take that on a very serious note. If you need to do mqombothi wako, don't feel ashamed. If you need to sapaza, go sapaza. But obviously there are times when you need to do sapaza. You can't do it at night because you don't want people to see you. You've got to still use the time where it's in the morning, because that then coincides or correlates with the time of sunrise, because those things are important. So I think with the ritual question, I'm just going to say, just when you need to do those rituals, just be cognizant of the time that you do them. You can do your candles. I think it's always safe to use your candles. If you need to do impepo, in your car, if you want to do it in your house, if you want to do it, just don't be ashamed. That time of being ashamed is behind us. That is what they have capitalized on, Abase Western, to be able to override. We need to make this fashionable for us. It must be fashionable. It mustn't be something, I mean, we want to follow izinto zabo when it looks elite kind of rituals. When they do this thing, they say, oh, I'm going to use my Malayan salt to bath. They're doing a ritual. Why can't you do your ritual? That's all I wanted to say in terms of rituals.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I just want to read a few more questions. The next one is from Nelly again. She says, learning so much today, would like to know more about Series B. What we'll do about that? Thank you so much, Beloved, for that. Menzi will share some of his resources that I think he shared with Roy. We'll share that on our page. We'll share that on Instagram, on Facebook, so you can be able to just get those resources of, just so that you can be able to work with that and understanding. Okay, then the next question we have from Kelly. She asks, without knowing your exact time of birth, how else can one accurately know the placements of planets in their chart? Sis Tabisa?
Thank you for that question. I think the date does help to some extent. The exact time just helps with transits to be specific. But for people that don't know that the specific time, what normally happens is that, at least, because when I'm talking about transit, let me also explain, it's just events that have happened during it's like a snippet or a snapshot of events that happen. So what we normally do, if you don't know the specific time, we normally ask you a couple of events that could have happened in your past, maybe the death of your father, or we'd use something like birth of your child, or any other thing, or maybe with the time you went to varsity or the time you left school. That normally just helps to get the right time. So I think in terms of that, don't worry, just use your if you know your date, that's good enough. You can always get a generic thing to know how the placements were, and that will give you sort of an idea. If you wanted to know, your personality won't change much. It will just change certain things in terms of in terms of more information about yourself if you don't know the time. I think that was the time she asked me.
Yes, so she was just basically asking if she doesn't have birth time. And I know that with the charts, you just choose midday or something as
Yes,
the default. Yeah.
You can choose midday, it would help, or even in the morning, but midday just generally gives you an idea to almost like give you an average. It also depends on the place where I think the important things for people to know, it just helps to know if you were born in South Africa, and if you were born in South Africa, in which town roughly, but generally in South Africa, it's normally the same, unless you step outside of maybe you were born in Lesotho, because then the placements would have been different, or anywhere else. So don't worry about the time, just provide what you can in terms of the time, and then the rest can be worked out.
Okay, perfect. All right, Nkosi, you can speak.
So it's not, the hand was not raised for me. It was for Nogwanda on Facebook. She said, Togozani, please explain sidereal versus what we are typically used to understanding horoscopes to be.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. I will pick that up because I've been doing a lot of work on this. Okay. So initially when, okay, I'll speak about my own personal journey with astrology and stars and how I'm navigating my path in understanding this. So last year, 2 years ago, I think 2 years, yeah, 2 years ago, I got really into astrology, and I always was before as a child growing up. I always was able to see, okay, you've got like, you a Scorpio, the way you're talking, or because you're so detective and you're so secretive and you know everything about everyone, but they don't know much about you. So then 2 years ago, I then did my birth chart. I started really working on my birth chart in also an attempt to understand myself, because I needed to just use all the different tools, because these are all tools for you to have a deeper understanding with yourself. So what we have is a system. So the system we were speaking about in terms of saying Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, that is tropical. That is based on the seasons which are driven by what? The sun. So that's how our seasons are driven. When we have winter, we say it's winter because there's the absence of the sun to be, like, it's not that the sun is not there in the sky anymore, but the visibility and how close it is to us is further. And so when we talk about seasons, it's all about the sun. And that is useful, and it's one way of looking at things. And then we have sidereal. Sidereal is basically on fixed constellations. So it's not about where the sun is, it's a fixed constellation. So they look at where are the stars right now. So right now, when you look at where the stars are, we are still in Leo season because of where the fixed constellations. So tropical looks at it changing every time with the seasons. Sidereal looks at it changes, but it's based on where the fixed constellations are in correlation to the Earth. What's nice, so there's pros and cons on both systems. What's nice about tropical is that it's easy to read. I mean, everybody can read where the sun is, and it's easy to understand and follow. So that's why, for me, I think tropical talks about your personality, like a lot about your personality, because it's also about the sun. So it's going to tell you a lot about what people see, what shines about you. That is tropical. Then with sidereal, I like it because it doesn't matter whether you're in the north or you're in the south. The fixed constellation is at the fixed, it's fixed. So we don't have this up and down of saying, okay, but what am I? Then I must flip it over and say I'm this, I'm that. That is just too much. But with sidereal, it's fixed. And with sidereal, for me, I feel it's more about your life purpose. So it's who you grow and elevate to become. That is your life purpose. So if you look at your chart and you say your sidereal chart, it will tell you about your elevated self and what you need to focus on and who you are on that elevated self, while your tropical will just give you about your personality. So both have also the cons in the sidereal is that it also looks at the procession. Is it called the procession of the earth? So that's also going to change. So everything is ever changing. So nothing is like fixed in terms of life as we know it, and in terms of these systems as we know it. So you also must be cognizant of that. It also allows, sidereal also allows for like a 10-day period of, in September, I think it's, no, in December, they've got like 13 signs, because there's that December time where it's like a whole new sign. So that's basically how I can explain sidereal. Personally, I feel is that all of us in the Southern Hemisphere should consider looking at your sidereal placements, because that's going to help with the confusion of trying to convert and all of that. But keep to your tropical. So the work that Sis Thabisa does is also important, because she's going to tell you about your personality. She's going to tell you about things of how you come across, things to work on. So everything, yeah, and. So tropical and sidereal and Kemet and everything else, and. So yes, I hope that answers the question. But I see we have more questions. But Sis Thabisa, would you like to add anything on from that in terms of sidereal versus tropical?
I think you've said it correctly. It just depends what resonates with the person. So we can't really dictate what happens or what a person chooses. But I think, to be honest, as African people who are trying to find ourselves, at some point we need to have higher, how do I say this? But we need to have a platform where we could, because now it's going to cause a bit of confusion amongst our people with the Kemet and sidereal and you know, because at some point people are trying to find a way of coming back to our roots. But if you're going to have segments and segments, we are really going back to religion where there's segmentations, and it's not really helping us. But I just needed to put that out there, that at some point, the heads that are pushing or the heads that are driving these different, how do I say it? These different
schools of thoughts,
is we need to come to, hence for me, I'd rather, even though I am now learning the Kemet, but with the differences, for me, it's I mean, because you'll even with the African things, I'm Nkosi, but we struggle to find abantu within our nation to actually guide us with simple things. So now we're trying to find roots in terms of where the roots of where we come from. But if you're going to have this bigger, not really seemingly causing confusions, it's going to be a challenge. I think in this new year, whether we regard it as it was beginning of September or end of September, but I think there is a call to actually just have talks amongst the people that are driving the different schools of thought to just lessen the confusion. I think you're getting what I'm saying, but we need to get to that point.
No.
For now, I'm still sticking with what I understand and what I can follow. It does help. I know that I've done a couple of reports. It has helped myself as well. I think yourself as well, Mam Xaba, that's where you've been helped with the report to actually find that. Because then when we have to look at these calendars, now we need to look at the astrology for the specific ones. And I don't know, it might be a challenge to search for those, but I'm sure it can be found somewhere, but let me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sissy. And definitely just to echo what you're saying is that I know right now, whoever is watching this, it feels overwhelming. It feels like, okay, so where do I start? Start where you are. I started in tropical. Start with Sis Thabisa. Understand the planets are the planets. Pluto will always be wherever Pluto is placed in your chart. That is where there'll be deep transformation. Whichever, even in sidereal, Pluto stays Pluto. So the planets are always going to stay the planets, their characteristics. The signs are always going to stay their characteristics. The Aries will always be Aries, pioneering, strong-willed, a leader, a go-getter, because it's also pushed by Mars, its ruling planet. So start there. Start by understanding the planets. start by understanding the signs. And then from there on, you'll see the different versions. I mean, there are resources that you can use to get a free chart on tropical and sidereal, and then make up your mind what speaks to you in terms of then you doing your deeper work. But just don't allow your mind, your monkey brain, to overrule what your feeling is, because this stuff is really about feelings, about what resonates with you. And that's a personal choice. And that's also about where you are at. So start somewhere. Don't get overwhelmed by, oh no, but now there's this, there's that. Just start somewhere. Understand who you are right now. So if you feel you want to understand Virgo season right now, start there. Start researching, what do Virgos stand for? Being organized, being very self-critical, hard on themselves, perfectionist. Start there, so that whatever system that you plug it into, it will always be the same as that. So just in terms of also what Sis Thabisa speaking, Roy has echoed it on the chat, and he says, may we request Sis Thabisa to draft an astrology guide for us for the Southern Hemisphere and a lunar or solar calendar for us from September 23, 2021 to September 23, 2022? Or can one of you start tutorials regarding all that we have discussed today? Sis Thabisa, study guide.
It's actually, I've actually asked someone to put together, not put together, I'm going to provide the content, but to sort of give me a blog platform where I can actually share that stuff. And I think from most of the people, even the people that I'm consulting, they're asking, the fact that we have to come back to ask you these things, can there not be an open platform where we can access this information? So, but I think it's something that I am working on, and it should be out there. But like I did mention, is that with all, because I don't want to add or to be part of the confusion. So it will be important for different people to actually come to some sort of consensus in terms of which one works for us. But obviously for me, I'll go with what I understand, and it has worked for me until now in terms of understanding the planets and the energies and whatever. Because like I'm saying, I do not approach astrology from the point of just the physical and the stars and then what happened. But for me, it helps me with my spirituality. So that's what I will actually push more in terms of how do I align. And I'm going to put the rituals, and I'm going to put all the, whether you need to do herbs or incense or whatever. So it will incorporate all of that stuff. And that's the part of spirituality that I am leaning on for help from astrology.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We are very excited to get that offering. Menzi, you had your hand raised up. You can speak.
Greetings, and I'm aware that the time is up, and really my sister does have another appointment, but it's very important. You know what you are speaking about in terms of having a resource. Everyone within Ikhambi, we know we've been striving. Ikhambi is actually exactly supposed to be that portal. There's a couple of people we are speaking to in order to get, let me put it this way. We've been trying to pull the knowledges from all our different people who are kind of thinking the same way as we do with regards to an African calendar. So I'm glad that Thabisa is also here. As much as she's developing a space, I would like to offer that we should contribute to it together and make it something like a wiki. You understand Wikipedia, different people, according to a particular template, can contribute to actually making the wiki better. If you find something not correlating properly to actual factual scientific knowledge, you can add and then put down there you can add a reference. You can reference properly. You say, okay, according to Abesut, or according to Amazulu, or according to Isintu in the Southern Hemisphere, this is what it is. But according to me, my research, maybe it includes Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology from the Vedic point of view. This is what it is. So it's a lot of information. Some of it may sound like it contradicts each other, but for the viewer, for the person who's interested in the knowledge, they can just go into the portal and look at the reference and do, because the whole thing here is about doing research for yourself, because it's all about self-understanding. Xaba cannot tell you which is the perfect candle or the perfect ritual for you. All we can tell you is what is actually happening in the cosmos, and this is what we have been seeing. This is the tradition, but also this is the personal approach to these things. We are promoting self-healing, we are promoting self-knowledge, we are promoting that people should co-create our collective destiny. Not that, exactly why we say we do not, we offer our recommendations with trust. We're not offering them with some ego to say we know it all. We are offering them with trust. We trust that what we have researched is true. But in our portal, it'll be very easy to reference. You come and check and you cross-reference. And it, you know, in a wiki site, you can actually erase things, which we find out tomorrow that no, the thing was not right. You can just delete it, you know? So I'm offering to Thabisa and all of us who are listening that let's co-create this together. Afro Service sisters are listening also, and other people that are contributing to this discourse. It's global. Asar, Imhotep, and other brothers and sisters. Let's contribute to it, and then we can have it. I really believe that it is time. 2022 is going to happen.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Brother Menzi. I think, you know what, definitely it's time. And I think this is the process. You know, before you can run, you must crawl. And this is, we first had to awake that, okay, we actually do have our own system. The system that we know out there is not the best aligned for us. So we had to do the learning in this platform, in this year that we've spent, of actually just learning, speaking about it, so that now we are able to come into a place to say, okay, from everything that we know, how then do we start bringing this all together to better share into the space? And definitely Ikhambi is that hub. So I'd like to also say to everybody that's watching, please feel free to DM us, send an email. This is what we are here for. We're here to open up the platform. If you feel that, you know what, I have a different take of everything that Xaba and Thabisa are saying, I mean, I don't agree. This is my take. This is the platform of you to actually send us communication and say, hey, this is how I think about it. I'd like to share this because this is for the, this is about community. This is about us. This is about our knowledge. This is about our history. So please use the opportunity. Feel free. Don't be shy about it. If you feel that, you know what, I would like to have a session and talk about everything that I know because I've been researching a lot about this, reach out to us. Let's have that session. Let's have you talking about what you know. Share that with us. Even if it doesn't fall within the season, you realize this in another season, you're like, but it doesn't, it's not really the topic. Still reach out to us. We can arrange something, have a recording. This is what we are here for. We are here to get everybody to share what they know, because I know that we are all doing our little, we're all researching, we all are on this path. So let's be on this path together and share, cross-reference, is what Menzi is saying, be like Wiki. If something else is contradicting, you say, no, but I read it this way. Let's be very engaging in our own healing, in our own history making. We have to become more about the action of it. Like, let's get that portal going. Let's just have action, and then we'll figure it out as we go, but we're going to be all there together. So thank you so much for that. I know that there was a lot of comments, but I'd like to wrap up now for the sake of time. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking this time out to be with us and learn, grow. Let's just be with us. I'll just roughly take about 2 minutes to just quickly read comments, and then we'll wrap up and just close the space. Yes. So Menzi says also Amendra Institute with Nkulu Ang and also Koko Rutendo and the Credo Mutu Foundation. Let's put together our collective resources. So true. Caesar Nkosi says, thanks for the session. This platform looks like a true holy family. So affirming Magwande. Menzi says we can have this portal by December, January. Marco, we are very excited for that. Nelly says, amazing session, Siyabonga for sharing. Thank you so much. So we'd just like a final closing word from Sis Thabisa. Just 2 minutes, Sisi, of just closing off to the audience, and then we will close off.
Okay, so from my side, thank you, Ikhambi, for the exposure. I don't know if you touched on it. All right. So I think it's about that time. I also needed to mention that there's also dedicated. Is that from my side? No. That's actually okay. So there's also another lady who has dedicated her time to actually learn and share and our origins. I said, she's lady, something, boss lady, SA.
Yes, so it's actually Uzane from Ethno-Savvy. Yes.
Okay, so that's another lady that maybe we can bring together to in terms of trying to bring knowledge from. Hey man, what's that? Yeah, so that's another lady that can also be incorporated to be able to bring together the knowledge. I think she's also done extensive research in terms of that, so that would be very helpful. Also, yeah, so but just I did ask for this because we want to make it something that where if people haven't started interacting with knowledge, there's also Umkhulu Nzingiza, who's also running the Kemet educational sessions. So we can all get from all different sources and try and collaborate to be able to make a success of what we have learned. Obviously, the reason I think I've shared in my previous session, how I got to where I am now. And it's not to say that I now know it all, but I've got comfort in what I know. And some of the readings that I get from my spirit guides are in line with the journey that I am getting from here on. And thank you for the exposure again, Sisi. Thank you for the time. Thank you for Mkhulu Menzi's platform, Sis Nelly, and everyone, and family at Ikhambi. Yeah, I think we did say that we will talk beyond today to be able to make, to bring together the information that is necessary to take us forward, which I understand that one of the projects now will be to have that platform where we can put together the information and reference to on different sources so that our people are not fragmented even more and end up not starting their journey. All of this is about finding the truth about our spirituality. And so it also then taps on the right times to do certain things. So I think that's the basis of why we are brought together in the way that we have been. Thank you. Ashe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Thabisa, for saving yourself for over 2 sessions. We really appreciate your family. And we get all the same sense in terms of the work that you need to do to, you know, throw everything together and release confusion. So thank you so much, everybody. As we close this off, thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of us. Again, the email address is admin@Ikhambi natural all one word .co.za. Send us an email if there's anything you'd like to discuss. We are also on the platform on Instagram. We are Ikhambi Natural Healing, and we're also on Facebook, Ikhambi Natural Healing, also on YouTube. So across all the spaces, we're there, interact, engage with us. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you in the next session. Thank you. Thank you. Ashe.